Hey, balls of magic. Welcome back to How to Be Queer podcast. My name is Alex. My pronouns are they, them.
Hi, I am Kim. My pronouns are she, her. I am your co-host of How to Be Queer.
Yeah, we're co-hosts.
We're co-hosts.
And married.
And we're married.
It's delightful.
We got married November 19th of 2021. We're still does that still count as a newlywed? Are you a newlywed for a year?
I think so.
Yeah.
For the first year.
Yeah. So we're newlyweds still.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, welcome to our podcast, How to Be Queer, where we talk about all things about queerness in a heteronormative world.
Yes. We have an awesome episode here for you today. We have all sorts of things to talk about. A book that you're reading, Kim.
Oh my God. Yeah. I want to definitely talk about the book.
We'll dive into some TikTok comments that we get.
Yeah.
Questions, as well as perhaps if we get there, straight washing.
Oh boy.
And we'll describe and unpack.
We got a lot on deck.
Yeah.
So before we even get to any of these things, let's thank our sponsor, YouthSeen. Thank you, YouthSeen. You guys are amazing.
Amazing. Check them out, youthseen.org. Go hit that donate button. Give them all the monies.
So, here comes Captain Underbite. Hot on it. He's here.
He's hot on the trail. School's starting soon. So if you need support for your LGBTQ youth, he's eating toilet paper. If you need support for your LGBTQ youth and or families, go to YouthSeen, SEN.org and look up resources, connections, community, family.
Yeah, and you're amazing because you also do some work with GSAs, which I know used to be Gay Straight Alliance, but it's updated language to, what is it, gender?
Yeah, I just learned in the past 6 months. So it was Gay Straight Alliance. Then it went to, I think there's QSAs and there's GSAs, to Gender Sexuality Alliance.
Okay.
So it encompasses all genders and all sexualities. And then, Q would be queer.
I love that. I mean, I wish we would have had something like that when I was going to school. Probably could have saved me a lot of heartache and confusion.
Gosh, me too.
And I'm assuming for my my other gay people that were in my schools with me, that none of us even knew how to talk to each other. That would have been really helpful. So yay for the GSAs, the QSAs, all the things.
Yeah. If I would have had a thriving LGBTQ adult in my life that said, hey,
it's okay to be gay.
It's okay to be you. It's okay to be gay. It's okay to be not in the binary.
I love that word, thrive.
Right. Thrivers.
I am a thriver. I've been there. How I'm feeling about this Lizzo song. I freaking love this Lizzo song. And when she's like, I've been through a lot, but I'm still flirty. I totally feel that. Like, yeah, I think it's been a lot for everybody since 2020.
Yeah.
I have not met a single person that hasn't been like, woo, 20, the past 2 years, but it definitely feels like we've been through a lot. And I'm still flirty.
Yep.
I'm still flirty, at least with you.
Hey.
Does that work?
Yeah, please.
Speaking of Lizzo and flirty, if you're watching us on YouTube right now, which I guess people do.
Yeah, you can watch us on. We're increasing, we're expanding. We're on YouTube now.
Yeah, so you can actually see what we look like when we produce our highly produced podcast. But in the beginning of the summer, the song by Lizzo, About Damn Time, came out, and I listened to it like one time, and I was like, this is my song.
Yeah.
Like everybody else in America, this is everybody's song. Thank you, Lizzo, for creating a moment for people. I love the lyrics, but she sings this one part. She's like, I'm just not the girl that I used to be.
Yeah.
And there's something about that there's something about that in that song that I think it just deeply resonated with me. And so I did something because I really wanted to change. And so I think it's from when I started cutting it till today, it's almost like 24 inches of hair.
Really?
Yeah. It was like 2 feet of hair, like from when before, because in March I did like the first cut,
right,
which was like 8 or 9 inches.
Yeah.
And then I did the rest. What was it? Last Friday too. So it's been about a week. And for me, it feels really good because when I was in my 20s, I wore this haircut and I loved it when I was like a young girl, like running around New York City, like, hey, I loved it. And then since then I grew and grew and grew and grew hair. And,
do you remember the moment when you're like, I'm going to grow my hair back out?
Yeah, I think, and this kind of ties to like a lot of the comments and stuff that I've gotten over the past couple of days. It's not lost on me that, I came to New York City and I was like, I am going to find myself and I'm going to be me. And I kind of lost my way a bit.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But when I lost my way a little bit, the more lost I became, the longer and longer my hair got.
Oh.
And then I feel, so I'm wondering if, and it's funny because, people have looked at pictures of me as a kid and like, somehow I'm back to that haircut too, from when I was like in 4th and 5th grade. So to me though, I guess, my hair, if you're not watching us on YouTube, my hair is very, very short. It's maybe like an inch at the longest part.
It's cute. It's a cute little pixie.
It's a cute little pixie.
Yeah.
Still pretty feminine, but it's a pixie cut.
Yeah.
And, but I noticed that when I got it cut, I'm like, oh, right. That's me. That's my hair. Face looks a little different because it's been 20 years, but I'm like, but it's me. And
there
I am. But then I started going out in public and having other people see me. And let me tell you, people have a lot to say about hair.
Suburban moms do not.
Suburban moms are not. It's interesting to me, and I want to say, like, people are really.
No, I know. Yeah,
they're so kind, and
we have some humor here.
Yeah, and if there's like, we'd made 2 cute little videos and put it on our TikTok accounts. I'm like, this is insane to me. Of all the things that we put on TikTok, which we're very much ourselves, and we just put shit out there.
Yeah.
And it's just like me and you joking around about the fact that I got my hair cut. And there's something like 700 comments about my hair.
Your hair. Yeah.
Very positive, very loving, very affirming. But I'm like, that's a lot of people commenting about hair. I'm like, you cut it off, it grows, you dye it, it goes gray. Yeah. For people, some humans, it falls out of your head. Like I guess I just felt like I really wanted just to change. I wanted to change something up. I was underestimating what that was going to bring out in other people.
Yeah, I think it's interesting if we could call it the hair effect.
Like Steve Harrington from Stranger Things. Like people are obsessed. They call him Steve the Hair Harrington.
Yeah.
I fucking love that show.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. I like that connection too. Yeah, it's like when there's the phrase, it's just hair.
It's just hair.
I mean, it's hair.
Yeah. I mean, you feel really, you've always said that when you got your first gender affirming haircut, it felt really good to you.
Yeah. Well, when you mentioned, you went back to the haircut you had when you were like in 4th or 5th grade.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with Michael J. Fox because I loved Family Ties, Alex P. Keaton, and I loved Marty McFly. I loved, what was the secret to my success? Like, I loved Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be Michael J. Fox, but I kind of liked him.
Yeah.
And so I think I wanted to look like Michael J. Fox. Yeah. And so I wore his haircut when I was a kid.
That's awesome.
We'll have to put pictures. I mean, I've shown the picture to people and they're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I can't say I was a really cute kid.
I remember telling my mom that I wanted to get my hair cut and I wanted to cut it short. And I don't remember like what that really meant or looked like. And so I ended up with a mullet. A feathered mullet.
Oh, sweet.
And so my mom would blow dry it and feather it every morning. And it was straight in the back and feathered in the front.
You were business in the front and party in the back.
And then my 3rd grade class picture was we just come from recess. Yeah. And then we had class pictures. And so I slicked the sides back.
Oh, sweetie, you must have looked so cute.
And I was wearing a navy blue dress.
You were wearing a dress? I've never seen Mom, you wear a dress.
I know you listen to this podcast. Like, please tell me you're laughing with me because I'm dying.
Did you have guns when you were like your arm guns? Were you like a buff kid?
My mom said that I always had little muscles.
You always had muscles.
Yeah, when I was all grown up.
Yeah. I always picture you in the Laura Ashley dress. Because remember, they were so fancy.
Yeah.
And they were always like, you could have a dress that matched your bedspread, that matched your curtains, that matched your wallpaper.
With your Salmon Libby shoes.
I loved Salmon Libby shoes. I think I wore for my 8th grade confirmation. Because you wear white. Mm-hmm. And so I had this really cute white dress. It actually had a cutout in the back. I was very ahead of the trend. And then I had magenta Salmon Libby shoes. Oh. It was very fashion forward even then.
I got white ones from TJ Maxx.
You would wear white Salmon Libbies?
I had white Salmon Libbies.
And so they were clean for like a day.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I think I was onto something when I chose the magenta.
Threw in the river at some point.
You did like your football player walk. And then chucked them.
Anyway.
Yeah, so it's just interesting. Like I don't know how long I'll keep short hair. I may, my idea in my head was that I'm gonna let it grow in silver and stop dyeing it. And then I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll keep it this way for a while. But I guess, I don't want to always look the same, right? Like I don't. And then I started looking at pictures and I'm like, I look exactly the same for the past 20 years. And I'm not the same. I'm not the same. We should all be growing, which is kind of going to lead me to this book I'm reading in a minute. But I actually like change. I like mixing things up.
Yes, me too. Yeah, whenever I tried to grow my hair back out at one point, and then I just never could, or just never wanted to. But I would just change the color of it.
I can't. Yeah, you change your color all the time. I mean, since I've known you in the last, how many years have we known each other now? Like 7 years. Since I've known you, 6 or 7 years. I have seen you with purple, pink, black,
brown, blonde.
Blonde. Yeah. I've seen you with 5 different hair colors.
Yeah.
In 5 years.
Hot pink,
really bright, like magenta pink.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to say, I like this the best though.
Oh yeah.
This is my favorite color, which if people aren't on YouTube, you're like white blonde. Like platinum, is that what we call it?
Yeah, it's like almost kind of purplish, but it's like white blonde.
See, I've never had a different hair color than just brown. Like I'm kind of a reddish brown sometimes.
You could rock blonde.
Okay, we cannot both be wearing short hair and blonde. Do you realize how ridiculous we would look? I'd be like your brown chubby sidekick. We could not. There's no way. Do you realize how I mean, I know like when couples have been together and they've been married for a while, they like start to look like each other, but like that would be bad.
Does that mean I'm gonna glow like you?
You can. I'll give you my J-Lo glow drops.
Yes. I'm gonna glow like you.
Yeah. Well, you also have me like on no alcohol and like vegetables and some egg whites. It's like all I'm eating. For our people that listen to us for a long time, you all can imagine how much I miss my carbs and fat. But I've been cut off. I do. Like, I feel it though. I'm sleeping.
We're sleeping better. We feel better. We look, my face is not.
See, this is what sucks about getting older.
Right.
When I was in college, for my friends from college, I love them so much. We're still, after all these years, we're still on a text thread together and we can sometimes send like 100 texts in a day. Like it's ridiculous. When we were in college, like I don't understand how I'm still alive. I think my liver and my kidneys have to be like, girl, we used to get, so first of all, we lived on Subway, Acme Pizza, and like fancy dinner was like mac and cheese with cut up hot dogs, right? Because no one had money. Nobody had money. And so our drink, we would make this thing called yadka.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I mean, like bong water and stuff like that was too fancy for us. So we would get the gallon plastic jug of Vladimir vodka. I'm sorry, trigger warning. Like if you experience this in college and you're like, you're going to throw up again too. We would get the gallon with the handle and it was plastic.
Right.
So it was like $7.99 for a gallon of vodka.
Yeah.
Whoever is still out there drinking it, like we're a step up from turpentine. That's where we're at. It's so gross. And then we would take that and we would cut up lemons and limes. We actually used real lemons and limes. So we must have had some
fancy,
like change from the sofa, something to go buy them. We would cut them up and then like squeeze it into into like, we probably poured the vodka into like a milk jug or something. And then sugar. Oh. Like cane sugar.
So you made like your own lemon drop.
I mean,
with really shitty ingredients.
so gross. And then we would like call it would be a yadka night.
Okay.
But the best part about it was like we never had any money. So like if you were gonna go to the bar, like I couldn't afford drinks at the bar.
Did you add maraschino cherries and shallots?
No, I did not. I love a good shallot. I love a good shallot. Anytime I like a recipe, I'm like, what's in this? Shallots. It's always shallots. The
Capers.
fanciest, those capers.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your story. I just had
It's
to
like the Dijon mustard of onions, right? I fucking love them. But yeah, we would shake it and then pour it into like cups, and you would drink that before you went to the bar.
Right.
See, you were an athlete in college.
I was getting up at 4 a.m.
I was coming home at 4 off of a vodka drink. It was amazing. I still love my crew from college so much. They're amazing.
Oh man.
We had so much fun.
On Wednesdays it was, gay boy night at the club. So I would come home at 2 and then get up at 4.
But when you went out for gay boy night, what were you doing? Hanging out with the gay boys?
Well, yeah, I had a couple friends. Chris from the men's rowing team. Love you, Chris. If you ever hear this podcast, I don't know if you will, but hey. He had a boyfriend named, I forget his name, but he drove like a brand new Buick.
And like before this Buick Enclave car became like the soccer mom car.
And it was before Buick's like
kind of reinvented.
Yeah. And it was before LED lights around your room were cool. Like so it was like the Buick that had the LED lights around the middle.
So he put them in the car?
No, it came in the car.
Okay.
So it was lined with these like different color LED Buick lights. It was amazing.
Would go out in the Buick.
So Chris and his boyfriend in the Buick would come pick us up, and Wednesday nights at Wall Street had the best music.
Yeah.
So we would dance till 2 a.m. and the women's rowing team had practice at 5.
But because you were like 20, you could do it.
Oh yeah. The bounce back effect was like way, way better than it is when you're 44.
Yeah. I mean, I had 2 glasses of wine on Friday night, and like for 2 days I was like, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to really quick, and we'll get back on topic. But speaking of it, I went to this the new slide park with the kids today, and I did the slides with the kids. And at one point, I went off this purple slide that was like a ski slalom, and so my oldest went off, and she flew and then landed. She's like, "Oh, I kind of like bumped my nose," and so I did the same thing, and I tried to avoid smushing my face, and so I turned my head and I cracked my neck.
Are you okay?
No, I'm totally fine. But I was like, yeah, I'm done. The 44-year-old does not bounce back the same way as I used to.
And you're like a ridiculously strong and in shape 44-year-old. So I should not attempt this.
They had it was like ski season. It was like green, blue, black.
So I'm definitely on the greens and the blues. Did you just go straight for the double black diamonds?
I actually did.
I know you would. I know you so well at this point. Of course you did.
That's really funny. Yeah.
But did you have fun though? Did you feel like you were playing like you were a kid?
I did. And I really wanted to play with my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's important.
I had to say, I've read a lot of stuff about the importance of play as we become adults.
Yeah.
And how stress relieving it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really true. Like that's one of the best parts to me about being a parent is like when we like play and do Foursquare or we're like giggling about stuff, like it reduces my stress level more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should have adult play therapy. I mean, there's play therapy for kids.
If you could play any game again as an adult, and let's take away the fear of being hurt, what game would you play?
I mean, I roller skated a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah.
A lot. And then also, I like speed. Mm-hmm. So like I would ride my bike really fast and I would roller skate really fast, and I wasn't afraid to. It was kind of really cool to see my kids do this too. They possessed this like inhibition of like being scared of speed or heights. Mm-hmm. And even the youngest was like, okay, I worked through my fear on this one, and now roller skating.
Yeah,
long-winded. Yeah,
I love that.
Yep.
Well, should we get into partly kind of what we're talking about today. Can I talk about before we get into what you were going to talk about? I love to read. Reading is like, I can read easily. I can, in a weekend, I can burn through, a book easily. Yeah. I love the learning aspects of reading. I love stepping into somebody else's world. Love everything about it. And it's funny because my mom, avid reader. Yeah. My grandmother, avid reader. And it's interesting because my oldest is now like, Mom, what book should I read? What book should I read? And he asked me for a scary book. Ooh. I know. And so I gave him this book that's scared. He's 16. So like, right. He can read scary stuff. And so I gave him the book. Oh gosh, the name just escaped me. Son of a bitch. I hate when I do that when we're like live and it'll come back. It'll come back to me. Yeah. Oh, I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Oh. So if you haven't read this book, I'm Thinking of Ending Things. And it's also a Netflix movie. Yes. It is. And I'm hoping that like there's no spoiler warnings out there for it because it is really unique. And it is almost impossible to put down. Yeah. It's that scary that and it's one of those scaries where it's not like, hey, this what is the Netflix parody that Kristen Bell did, the woman across the street and the whole window thing in the window. It's not like one of those. Right. It's a really original story. But it's scary because you don't quite understand what you're scared of scary. Well, I remember when you finished it, you came outside of the back porch and you were like staring out. You're like, oh my God. Like it was really a good story. It's a good story because of the originality of it. It's decent writing. But it's also that type of scary that it's almost scarier when you don't know what it is you're scared of. And I said this about Bird Box was the other book that I read that I'm like, that book terrified me. You just watched the movie. Because again, you don't really know what it is you're scared of. There's not an explanation for it. And years ago, I remember before the Blair Witch Project turned into like a silly thing. Like I remember being a young person when I went to see it and it was before we knew that it was fake. Do you remember when Blair Witch Project came out? Theater. Oh yeah. And everyone was like, it's real, it's real, it's real. And I remember reading some critic about it and they said the thing that's so scary about it is you never see the thing that's scaring them. Yeah. You only see their reaction to the thing that's scaring them. So are we just mirroring their emotion? Well, and I think what it is that your brain starts to fill in the gaps. Right. Right. Of what you can't see. And that could be a really scary place. Because I guess there's, like you're not as scared when you know what it is, because then you can kind of rationalize or talk yourself out of it. Right. Which is why Walking Dead's not so scary. See, and I've never seen Walking Dead. Oh, we got to watch it. We got to watch that. You said that that's the next, because we with the oldest, we've been, with both two of the older, with all the kids, we watch different series with them. Yeah. And so with the oldest and the 13-year-old, we do Stranger Things. Is that dog? I think that was okay. We watched Stranger Things, which amazing. Yeah. And then the one that we do with Mindy Kaling, or she wrote it, Never Have I Ever. We loved that one. And then we did I forget what else we're gonna do. I think our dogs, I'm hoping the sound isn't picking up because they're being assholes. They're done. They're done. Okay. Hopefully they're done. Okay. Okay. So that was a very long-winded way to say, because I, of course, the highly produced podcast and we're completely on topic. But I started reading this book called Think Again by Adam Grant. I'm going to hold it up and people can see it. If there's a blue flame match on the front of it. And I have to say, it's more of like it's not a fiction book. It's a nonfiction book. And it's the power of knowing what you don't know. Yeah. And so I'll talk about this again on our next podcast, because one of the things that it really identified for me with it is the imposter syndrome, at least at the place that I am in this book. And I'm about halfway through. Okay. But imposter syndrome, which I know actually happens to a lot of queer people, right? Mm-hmm. You, especially when you first come out. Yeah. You're like, yes. Yeah. Totally. Like, am I really a part of this community? Am I really this? I don't really think, but aside from it being a part of, most people are going to feel some level of the imposter syndrome, right? Which is where you don't believe that you like are the things that you're saying, right? Like you lack like the confidence, even though you may have the competence.
Right.
So it's where your competence is higher than your confidence. And so the self-doubt that you have can make it, in some ways, like imposter syndrome isn't good because you end up like talking yourself out of taking opportunities or trying for things,
right?
Because you just don't have the confidence to do it, even though you probably are competent enough to.
Right.
People who don't suffer from imposter syndrome have the opposite, where their confidence is bigger than their competency.
Okay.
And so that's when you have people that are like, well, I can just be a lawyer. I can just be all these things. And eventually their confidence is like because you do have to be competent at things.
Right. You actually have to learn.
You actually have to learn the things. And so your confidence is only going to take you so far. You have to have competency.
Yeah.
And so there's like kind of those two categories. I fall into imposter, right? Where my competence is usually going to be higher than my confidence is, but it's a good thing because if you're in imposter syndrome and you're like, okay, but I'm going to still try things. And I do believe in myself enough that even if I don't know something, I can learn it. Mm-hmm. And then you gain even more competence. So he gives you two really good examples, which I'm going to share with people. So the example of where it didn't work, right? Where the person was so confident that they had solved the issue is the story of BlackBerry, which is, and it's funny because when I mentioned to you this earlier, you went to like the fruit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that's how obsolete it's become.
Right.
BlackBerry, meaning the thing everybody had before you had an iPhone.
Yeah. Cause then the second thought I had was, right. Oh, that thing that everybody had that I didn't have, but wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone had one, and it was designed for your work emails.
Yeah.
And so so the guy that invented it, and I'm sorry, guy, I read your name today and I don't remember it and whatever.
Obviously, no one knows you.
And so he is this visionary that created this way that you could carry around your work emails in your pocket. He had figured out that people wanted like a keyboard because remember BlackBerries had a keyboard.
Yeah.
And then
it's some T-Mobile made the Sidekick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
and at some point, the people that worked for him started saying like, well, but what's the next thing? And like BlackBerries were huge. When I was reading about like the financial success that they had, like off the charts, huge, insane amount of money and success that they made.
Okay.
But he thought, I've got this solved. People only want a device that's going to sit in their pocket, that's going to connect them to being able to do work and phone calls. They don't want anything else. Okay. Well, hello, 2006 and Apple. And Steve Jobs says, let's think about the BlackBerry differently.
Yeah.
What I think people really want is they want a computer in their pocket.
Right.
And so the guy that did BlackBerry was like, no. People don't want that. They don't want a glass screen. They want a keyboard. They want all this stuff. And so his confidence and thinking, I know what people want. Mm-hmm. It ended up ruining his competence.
Right. And everything crumbled.
Yeah. So the other, and everything crumbled. And now we all carry iPhones. And who the hell has a BlackBerry?
Yeah.
So I do know that they are, I think in the book that, and somebody, if you're listening and you know more about this, like I haven't gotten through the whole book yet, but I'm assuming that BlackBerry is at some point going to try to come back and reinvent themselves.
Interesting. Okay.
But the other example they gave is the woman that invented Spanx.
Yeah.
Like the compression underwear. So here she is. She's like, I like wearing, I use the word pantyhose. Some people say nylons.
Oh, I think my grandma used nylons.
Nylons
I
or pantyhose.
Pantyhose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she would cut the feet off and then wear them underneath her clothing to have like the effect of Spanx. And she's like, okay, I'm not a manufacturer. I don't live in fashion. I don't even work in like materials or textiles, but I have enough confidence to know that I don't have any competency in this.
Right.
And so she goes out and starts investigating and asking all of these people, how can I invent something like this? I don't know anything about it. And she just opens herself into learning. And that's how Spanx was born.
Well, and that's like what you and Dr. J talk about with DEI work. Like there are no experts.
There is no expert.
And so you have to ask, and it's perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think with equity work in particular, you are constantly trying to understand someone else's lived experience,
right,
so that you align yourself as an ally.
Right.
You're constantly looking to especially for people that have not had access to space. So how are you going to create that?
Yeah.
And what I find interesting about equity work, and listen, if you think you're an expert, you do you, I don't love that word.
Yeah.
And I don't love that word because there is no shortage of what I'm going to learn. Mm-hmm. There never is. Mm-hmm. An expert has a little bit of this connotation of I've done it. I know it.
I reached the highest level.
I've reached the highest level.
No way. If you believe that, you're in deep trouble.
Well, and that's kind of what this book is about.
Right.
Is that just, think again, constantly keeping yourself open to what you can learn and to be questioning, what do you think you know? Mm-hmm. And being able, if that guy, and this was one of the interesting things I thought about was, and they say this in the book, if the guy that invented BlackBerry stayed open and was still creating products that competes with Apple, where would we be? Mm-hmm. What could have been invented when you have a little bit more of that? And you could say well, there's Google phones, there's all sorts of different things that are out there, but nothing to the popularity and usage of iPhones.
Right. I mean, every possible technological thing you can connect your iPhone to, pretty much.
Yeah. So the long and short of it is that this book for me is, and they say, if you can live in that space of, okay, I might have a little bit of imposter syndrome, but I'm going to lean into some of my natural confidence to be but I think I can learn this.
Yeah.
You will probably end up being really successful.
Yeah.
And they said most high performers, that's where they live. Mm-hmm.
That's fascinating.
They do. They also mentioned that in July, that's when we have a heightened amount of problems in emergency rooms and stuff because the residents have changed out. It's the new crop of residents that come in, and they think that there's a correlation between the amount of people that don't get the care that they need because the residents come in as I'm a resident now, and they're overconfident and they still don't have the competency. Right. Isn't that fascinating?
It is. Well,
don't go to the ER in July.
Don't go to the ER in July because you might die. No, I'm just kidding. It's awful.
We'll say this: you might not get the care you need.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's what's going on with me. I've been chat, but that's where I'm at.
No, that's fascinating. I love learning about what you're learning about.
So we're gonna totally switch gears because we've been wanting to do this for a while, a question and answer session. Yeah. And so I'm gonna take yours.
Okay.
This. And so Alex, if you don't know, has an incredibly popular social media following. They have a TikTok account, which is Alex the Human Human. Mm-hmm. And a lot of your content is people literally asking you questions.
Yes, I do. I do all sorts of stuff, but yes, a lot of it is what is trans and what is non-binary.
How many times do you think at this point you have answered the question, what is non-binary?
Well, I think that a lot of us, or some of us, I should say, TikTok got really, really popular over COVID.
Yeah.
And so I was COVID, we're all home. I'll just try this thing. So it was just summer of 2020. So between summer and the past 2 years, I've probably answered and been asked that, I don't know, over 100 times.
Yeah, I want to say, I think it's probably
hundreds of times.
It's one of the most common questions. And then sometimes you get people that are like, what are you? Right.
Oh yeah. What are you? No, you're not. You're male, female, pick one. You are what you are at birth. Basically saying you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, you know what? Nice try.
I know. And somebody who's commenting after a 1-minute video somehow thinks that they know who you are better than you do.
Yeah.
So here's some of the...
Speaking of competency.
Anyway. I know, right? Speaking of, we need to send them a copy of this book. Okay. So you've compiled for me. I was like, Alec, give me the questions that you feel like you get asked the most.
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh my gosh.
I feel like he is dancing under our sofa.
Well, Rosie's in there too, right?
She's sleeping with me.
Oh, okay. She's perfect.
She's a perfect angel.
I went to my comments and I just started writing out some stuff.
Okay, so you ready for your first one?
Okay.
How did you get so wise? Do you have a background in therapy?
How did I get so wise? Trauma.
Okay, there's that. Okay.
No, I think, actually it's funny. No, I don't have a background in therapy. I have gone to therapy. I've gone to different types of therapy. Speaking of competency, I like to learn different because there's different kinds of therapy. Two things that stuck with me throughout my childhood. My dad always saying, just be happy. Find what makes you happy. And then my mom saying, I remember her pounding her fist on the kitchen counter one night and just saying, you can do it. And so for some reason or another, those two memories are locked in my brain and have kind of like fueled a lot of my way of thinking, even though I'm still as a messy as fuck human.
I like messy as fuck humans.
Like all we are. So I'm slow at times. I don't always get it the first time. But I also really value the truth and growing and learning, and I don't ever want to stay the same.
I want to say what I've learned from you and especially over the last year is that you in particular have done a lot of educating yourself around trauma and the impacts of narcissistic abuse to the point where you can actually predict a lot of times things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
And I've started asking you, I'm like, I feel like you're from another planet and you're psychic or you're like a time traveler. Yeah.
Yeah. I've just like, one of the people that I follow a lot, Dr. Nicole LaPera, holistic psychologist. She's on Instagram and TikTok and all the social media platforms. Is that what really resonates with me in a lot of the research? Just all that makes sense is that what we think, like our feelings and thoughts get stored in our body. And I think it's our world is going in the right direction, but we forget that our stories live in our bodies. And so part of the work, and one person said, let's maybe not say the word healing as much as recovery.
Oh, okay.
So you're the last half of my life, if life is a series of relapses and recoveries, the last half of my life, I want it to be that I'm in recovery my whole life, that I'm now dedicating myself to being kind and being compassionate to other people and myself,
right?
Forgiving myself for what I've done, for all the hurt that I've caused, all the hurt that I caused myself, other people, and that actually will contribute to my own wisdom. And then somehow I could actually, if I embody that and can dislodge my own body's pain, then I can actually start to elevate myself.
So do you feel like at this point in your life, you're in recovery?
Yes, I do. I ask myself every day on some level, like, have I hurt anyone today? Because that's the last thing I want to do. And then I dig, like I will analyze my own emotion. Where is this coming from? How is this person feeling and where is that coming from? Is this mine? What do I need to do here? And I wonder if a lot of it is like the hypervigilance of growing up in a home with an alcoholic parent, where you have to be like, my dad wasn't violent. He didn't, yell. He wasn't like, but he was like, you did have to know, you were still like living in a codependent home. So you had to be aware of what was going to happen next, who was going to say what. And then no one ever talked about it.
Yeah.
And my parents were the parents. Mom, I love you. I love you. But also, and I remember saying to my mom when I was 9 years old, you should just get a divorce. And so then they were the couple that stayed together until I was 19, until the kids left the house.
Yeah.
And so that absolutely has an impact on the kids. And anyway, I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole, but I just did not, I don't want my kids to know the pain that I knew once I knew that pain.
Well, I guess we've talked about this a couple times on here, that I think one of the things of coming out and being a mother, when you come out, and subsequently, like, I found the love of my life.
Yeah.
And it was a shift for my kids, right? Because they were the center of my world. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, well, this is who I am. And, Glennon Doyle, love her or hate her, one of the things that she wrote about really, really well, is that motherhood is not martyrdom. And in a family unit, if any member of that family is not able to fully be their authentic self, you are living in a dysfunctional family. So I think when I came out, and, it was definitely hard for the kids. I used to get a lot of that, like, well-meaning mother who would, like, do the head nod and be like, how are you? And how are the kids? And all the children. And, like, it's everything in me not to say back, like, but you're choosing to keep your kids in a home that they're every day seeing conflict that maybe nobody's talking about, or maybe there is argument and conflict and it's never being resolved. I'm like, I don't think that that's healthy either.
Right. They're living with two completely disconnected people. Like, how is that healthy?
I don't think it is.
No, it's not.
But for the appearance sake of we stayed together for the kids, that's something I think needs to be, like, think again.
Right.
I don't know that that's always, and you never know anybody's situation, but I don't know that. And there's a whole bunch of, like, historical reasons why women were not able to leave. I mean, we're talking, like, in the 70s, women couldn't even get a fucking credit card for themselves.
Right.
We didn't have laws that protected. I mean, just go and watch the Betty Broderick story, like, read about her and like what happened to her. And so, like, there are reasons why marriages had to stay together, just for the fact that, like, I don't know that women could even get out of certain situations. So I don't mean to make it sound like, oh, we'll just get a divorce, because that is not easy. But I do find that when I have these conversations with you, and one of the ways you've always really challenged me to think, and I love that, is be in recovery. You're not healing, you're recovering of yourself in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think, and I did say healing for a long, long time. And it's like that, when we know better, we do better. Thank you, Maya. Like, healing kind of can bring up this, there's an end point, and there is no end point. If you're committing yourself to, you're committing yourself to all of it, you are just in recovery from living in a way that was self-betrayal, people-pleasing. I want to recover from all of that and not be that person anymore.
So that was a long answer for number one.
Yeah. And I want to say really quick, because you start out with narcissistic abuse, I want to just say, we're going to talk about that. I mean, I know we kind of already mentioned about, there's going to be an episode about abuse coming. That narcissistic abuse is a very specific, from my experience, a very specific type of emotional and psychological abuse. And if you've never experienced it, good for you. It is a fucking mind fuck.
Yeah.
And I hope no one ever has to experience it. And also love that it's all over social media. Like, oh, were you married to a narcissist? And how do you know if the person you're dating is a narcissist? And that we can't just throw out that word. Right. We can't just call everyone a narcissist. There are specific behavior patterns and that you have to be able to witness and get away from, for that it is really fucking hard to do, and because you it causes it causes brain damage. It rewires your brain, the way you think about yourself, the way you think about the world. It is probably one of the most hideous things, I think, in the world. And so anyway, we'll get there. But
we're not quite ready yet.
We're not quite ready yet, but it's coming.
Okay. So one of the next questions that I think
on a lighter note,
that was quite a segue. This dog is killing me. It's like I think he's stuck under the sofa.
Yeah, he's stuck. Okay, you're fine, Bo. There you go. Lay down.
Why people listen to our podcast, I will never understand. And they do.
You do.
And now they're watching us on YouTube, which I don't understand, but okay. Did you wave at people?
I did.
I just pretend
this whole, too.
I pretend this is not happening. It's like not here.
Isn't she cute? Okay.
Okay. All right. So some of the other questions you get, I'm confused as hell because the love of my life are gay and I'm in progress. I care because I love them. I need them. This matter? That's a real question.
I think this was coming from a parent, a mom.
Okay.
Saying, I'm confused as hell. I also know that my kid is gay. My other kid is in transition progress. And all I know is that I love my kids and I also don't know what to do.
Thank you for translating that. Maybe I'm reading your shorthand here and I'm like, Alex, help me.
Oh no, that was word for word.
That's what. well, bless their heart. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me because this is a comment that you do get, because these are the most common ones that you get.
Yeah.
So like, okay, you're a non-binary trans person. My kid has just told me this. What the fuck? I love them. I don't know what to do. What's your quick hot take answer?
Well, are we asking like what is non-binary?
Oh, that's the next question. So tell me again, what's non-binary? Is it like not committing to one gender or another?
Short answer, sure.
Okay.
If you look at gender as a prism, I guess even for easier, more simpler terms, if you're drawing it on the whiteboard, you can look at it as like a spectrum. And I look at it, speaking of, I'm only expert on myself, and I'm even not even an expert on myself sometimes. I'm still learning. I learn something every day. That non-binary, if the binary is, it's a boy, it's a girl, you live outside of that.
Right.
Or you embody both with characteristics, stereotypical behavior, stereotypical expressions or presentations.
Yeah. One of the things I was so grateful to learn from you is that this is something I had to learn or unlearn, right? I always learned that the way that we expressed ourselves was reflective of a binary gender.
Mm-hmm.
And I've loved that. I love rethinking and relearning that gender doesn't actually owe you anything. Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't owe you an expression to have it make sense. And so there's a couple people, you definitely embody this. And then there's a couple of other people I've met that their gender is their gender and their expression is their expression, and they don't necessarily align. So like you can be the most hyper femme expression person in the world, but identify as a man.
Mm-hmm.
Like you kind of get to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I definitely had to relearn this because I was brought up in a world where if you identify as this is how you express yourself.
Yeah.
And I go back to like the 80s
mm-hmm.
where I'm like, we did have a couple people that were really pushing those norms. I think of Boy George, I think of Grace Jones. Those are the two that kind of Prince to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
maybe David Bowie,
maybe
Mick Jagger.
David Bowie, Mick Jagger, maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
I still remember Mick Jagger did some video dancing in the streets. Wasn't that with David Bowie?
I watched that on repeat.
Yeah.
It's
and
very
because
homoerotic.
it's very homoerotic. And I remember being like, what's happening here? But this is something I've had to relearn. That even though you may identify as non-binary, that is completely different than expression.
Yeah.
And you get to express yourself however you want.
Yeah. I think drag definitely helped me do that. But even when I came out as non-binary in real life, Like I swung to the opposite binary side.
You went super hyper mask for a while.
I did, because I was also unpacking. I'm like, what does this even mean? I don't even know how to do this. I just knew it was a process.
Yeah, I remember. It's interesting. I don't know how much we've ever talked about that on here, but when you did when you were first telling me who you were, let me put it this way. When we met, I would always describe you as like androgynous.
Yeah.
Right. Like a little bit of a girl, a little bit of a boy, definitely a little bit, but you never really tipped over to more masculine.
Mm-hmm.
You were always definitely like feminine, she, her pronouns, all the things. And then you finally were like, well, this is who I am. And you were like, whoop, how far can I swing over here? And all of a sudden we had like a hard part. We were like, I can't ever even wear anything that's feminized clothing. And I was like, okay, we're going all the way over there. But now, like, as it's been years since you've transitioned, you've kind of come back a little bit more towards the middle.
Yeah. I thought
why
that too.
Why do you feel like that is?
I think it's like a, where I guess truth has legs. You will eventually, as you keep searching, you will eventually fall to where your truth is.
So and the truth, obviously, because we grow older, right? And you know yourself and you uncover things about yourself, and you should constantly be learning, changing, and evolving. So your truth today, as you know it, is where do you feel yourself?
I would definitely say I'm still masculine of, if there's a center, I'm masculine of the center. Don't plan on, at least now, going off of hormone therapy. See myself in the mirror where I'm like, yeah, that still doesn't look like, I'll feel the way I look and the way I feel still don't quite align. And so,
what can I ask though? Like, what doesn't quite align for you still?
Oh, I'll have like gender, body dysphoria around my chest. And then, so there's that. And then some days I'm like, fuck it. And then some days I'm like, oh, I'm really struggling today.
I'm going to ask you something super personal.
Yeah.
So do you think if you were born into a body that had a very like voluptuous chest, like if you were walking around with what I have, because I wear a 32 triple D, right? If you were walking around with a 32 triple D chest, do you think you would have elected to have different surgeries?
Oh, I probably would have had top surgery years ago.
You would have.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just know that I'm in the body I'm in.
Right.
And I happen to have a smaller chest. I can totally get away with wearing a binder, and it works. Yeah.
But when you take that binder off, sometimes you still feel like,
yeah,
it's not quite where you want it to be.
Sometimes. And then sometimes I'm like, there I am. Yeah.
You're very, very non-binary.
I really am. I'm constantly, and then that's the comfort of being fluid.
And so before, we're not even going to get to these questions. It's whatever. It's our podcast. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
This is Ask the Non-Binary Person.
Ask the Non-Binary Person. So basically, I'm just playing the part of all the people on your social media accounts. Oh shit! And I lost my question. It was a good one too.
Playing the part.
So this is where I can understand from what you've told me. So no, because you've always felt this way. It's not like you just woke up one day and you were like, oh, I feel this way.
Yeah.
You've always felt this way.
Oh, yeah.
You just never had the language of non-binary.
Yeah.
So it had to have felt like, oh my God, like there's a name for this.
Yes.
I am not alone in this world.
Yeah. I think, and I don't know any different. I think because basically I was born into the body that I'm in, I wouldn't change the lower half. It's very strange. It's yeah, I guess it's the life of being a non-binary person.
Well, and since I'm asking all the questions instead of doing what I was supposed to do on this podcast tonight, but I noticed too, when you tell people who you are.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people go to questions that they shouldn't ask you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, are you going to get a surgery?
Yeah.
Are you on hormone replacement therapy?
Yeah.
And like they kind of want to know what's in your pants.
Yeah.
And I find that utterly fascinating that people feel like they can ask those questions.
Yeah.
Like I would never come up to some dude and be like, are you impotent? Are you taking Viagra? Like I would never come up to some woman and say, you look like you're about menopausal age. Have you gone on hormone replacement therapy yet?
Yeah.
Your boobs look a little saggy. Do you want to get top surgery? Like I would never ask somebody those questions, but you get asked that all the time as a trans person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the beginning for sure. And I would, you know, I would entertain it because I was so used to explaining myself, and because labels were, I was the person who for years, decades would say, well, I have no labels. And then all of a sudden I got all this language. I'm like, I am this, this, and this, and this, and this, which felt crazy empowering. And then now coming around to this not idea, but this knowingness, I should say, like, I finally, on an energetic level, understand what is happening inside of me. And these labels, I needed them at first for me. Now I know that other people need them more than I do.
Well, so we are back on track because that is one of the questions.
Yeah.
Yay, look how that all came together. You do or don't label yourself, and tell us, like, can you just kind of almost repeat and just go a little bit farther? Because when I met you, you told me labels were bullshit.
Right. Totally.
And I think I said to you, I am a person that is comforted by labels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the
Oh my God. It was, because
pretty sure you're gay.
I know we were hanging out, and I think I said to you, I had made a joke about you being a lesbian.
Yeah.
And you put your finger in my face and you were like, I am not a lesbian. I don't believe in labels. Don't ever call me that.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. Noted. I will never, because obviously I'm going to respect who you are, but I was confused by that.
Yeah.
So can you tell me, I mean, it's been years, but like, let's go back to that moment. At one point you completely rejected all labels. Mm-hmm. Then you get language and you're like, labels. Yeah. Where are you with it now? Or explain kind of those different phases, if you don't mind.
You know, I think this is where I get into, for lack of a better word, trouble, into TikTok, where people get really mad at me. Because I will explain these words, was non-binary, was transgender, and for me, I am just in this place in my life where, and BroFriend had mentioned this too. You will get to a place where you don't need to explain anything anymore. You're just going to be. And so now I talk about it, and I can talk about these labels and say, yes, I use these labels. It helps compartmentalize and simplify this gorgeousness, well, that all of us have in us. It's energy, it's knowingness, it's authenticity, it's intuition. It's just, I understand it, but I know that people, we all do need words and language. It's the one thing that sets us apart from other animals. We can talk to each other. And so, I don't get, I guess I can separate, I'm this place where I can separate out, yes, I'm this label because I know that this will help you understand this. And I'm here to hold your hand through it. And I don't mean that in a condescending way at all. It's, I actually want to be a part of this process and part of this growing of the world. And, but I don't need, I know that I white knuckled those words in the beginning because I had to.
Yeah. Well, and I guess it goes back to like initially what you were talking about being in recovery. The more recovery you find yourself in, the more you're able and wanting to walk people through that process with you. You want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Where I think from a more wounded place, where you were saying like, I don't want to like in BroFriend, like you just don't want to have to continuously explain yourself.
Yeah.
And so I think for allies that are listening, that is a part of, I think, being queer that is, people don't mean to be harmful, but it is harmful.
Yeah.
It is harmful to continuously ask people who don't live in the heteronormative majority to continuously explain themselves and their existence for your understanding.
Yeah.
And I know, I get it. It's hard because nobody comes up to you and is like, explain to me why you're straight. Explain to me what straight feels like.
Yeah.
You've never had to do that. And so you don't really understand what it's like when you have to continuously tell people, this is who I am. This is why I came out when I came out.
Yeah.
This is what this feels like for me. And now living in a world where it's like, you know, people will sit and openly argue your existence.
Yeah.
And that's where I can get a little spicy with our, you know, heteronormative world, because I'm like, y'all just sit around constantly questioning us and nobody questions you. And if somebody did, you'd get offended.
Well, and that brings me to one of the latest, one of my more recent videos was cisgender. This woman
She got very angry.
Got really angry. And she was like, I am not a cisgender woman. And I'm like, oh, honey, I've been there. I've been there where you're like, I am not this. And I'm like, okay, you're not understanding. And then like going back, not back and forth in like a combative way, but like trying to be like, hey, this is where I'm coming from. And then just getting angrier. I'm like, oh.
So was she, how do you know she was cisgendered?
She had said, and it's a few actually different, I'm kind of clumping. It's several different comments from different accounts. People saying, I'm not a cisgender woman. I'm just a woman.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm like, okay, let's do this. Let's unpack this. Let's look at all these different terms and labels. Yes, you are a woman. And you, when you came out of your mom and the person said it's a girl, like and you're saying you're a woman, that's cisgender.
Right.
Like
it's
I'm
just
not,
what it means. It's just a literal definition.
Yeah, it's a literal definition. I'm not, harming you or calling you a dirty name. Like it's a definition. And that heteronormativity just fucks with us so bad. Like, but yet it's left to the queer people to have the labels. Why?
Yeah. Well, I guess that's what I would say to that woman is like, so you're basically on a queer person's account. That you, Alex, and being a person that you use social media to spread awareness around all sorts of different things that face the queer community. And a lot of times educational, you get a lot of comments from people who are older and they'll be like, I didn't like you at first, but I sure like that you explain things to me in a way that's supportive and not using shame or wokeness. And that's what's so fascinating about someone coming on saying, don't you dare call me cisgender.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's just factually who you've told me you are, right? As you're saying, doctor, born woman, but all the things, but yet she's like a part of a society that goes constantly labeling everything about our existence. And so that's like the reflection. It's like, so is it really, then nobody can have labels, right?
Yeah.
Like that's actually, or everybody does. And we just take the harm away from it.
Yeah. And I've even said it on my different videos. I'm like, first and foremost, we're all human, but we're not evolution. We're not in a place right now where we can all just say, yeah, we're just human. Like we're not there yet.
Well, and I think that's one of the comments that I've seen a lot is, well, can't you just be human? Can't I just say, and I think it goes back to the person that is actually impacted.
Right.
That for them, so like for me, I'm going to use myself as an example here. I like the label queer. Yeah. That's who I am. I use that label because it feels affirming to me. So if you say to me, well, you don't have to label yourself. I'm like, but right now I do.
Yeah. Because if these systems were not in place that harm us, we wouldn't need to have this sense of like, do you see what I'm getting at? And I can't quite finish the sentence.
No, it's fine because we're getting towards the end anyway. And this is obviously a much bigger conversation when in doubt, right?
Yeah.
I always go back to the same thing. Who is the person that is impacted?
Mm-hmm.
It is not a person who is cisgender.
Yeah.
They're not impacted by somebody using language that is affirming to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so she can say, hey, I get that I'm cisgendered, but I really just like to be, referred to as a woman. Cool. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Everybody deserves that respect. But to take anger at it is the part where I'm like, but you're not actually impacted by being called a cisgender woman, because that is the center of privilege, except for the fact that you're not male. That is the center of privilege and power. I'm also assuming, I don't know actually if the color, ethnicity, or race of this person.
Right.
But that's part of it, right? Is that it is about who is impacted. Who are we yielding the floor to? Who are we making space for? So as a person that lives in the heteronormativity in a body that is cisgendered, you don't get to come in and tell a queer person what labels mean.
Yeah. And this one person was like, well, you're non-binary. You use a label.
Not the same.
And I'm like, you know what?
Not the same.
Not the same, but nice try.
And that's what I mean about like, you center the person that is impacted.
Yeah.
And so whoever that is and whatever element of their identity that is what we honor and center, because it has been erased or used to harm someone for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets I totally hear what you're saying. And I also understand that regardless of who you are and how you identify, sometimes labeling does not feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to open your mind to what might not feel good to me might feel really good to someone else. Yeah. And I don't actually get to make that decision for them. They get to make that decision for them.
Right.
So that woman, you're a woman. Cool. Cisgendered's actually not an insult, but okay.
Yeah. Yes, that's what it is. I'm not insulting you. It's just a definition.
Right.
But you somehow think that this is an insult. Okay.
Do you ever get to the point where you're like, you can't teach self-awareness?
Oh my gosh. Yes, I watched TikTok is amazing in lots of ways. And that you can't make someone drink the water.
And you can't make somebody sometimes like, I have dealt with this a lot in my job.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing I'm going to say about this person who didn't want to be referred to as cisgender. You have to do your own work to get out of your own fragility. Mm-hmm. And so if your fragility is saying, I can't talk about race, what about me as a white person being made to feel uncomfortable talking about race? Oh, well, I don't want to be called cisgender. I don't want to have labels like they have in the queer community. That is your fragility.
Yeah.
And so that is you making it about you. Mm-hmm. And most of the time it's just not. Mm-hmm. That is a very freeing thing to learn in life. Not about you. It's about this person over here. Yes. Oh boy. How you feeling over there?
Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is like, I think we were hoping to get to like one more topic and we're not going to do it. We'll have to save it for our next one.
Okay.
You good with that?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks for having such a good conversation with me.
Oh, thank you.
Can I do a little preview of like what we think is coming?
Hey. Yeah.
So we've been actually like on schedule, which is amazing for you and I.
Oh, well, good.
I think we've been doing like every other Thursday.
Okay, good.
So I'm traveling for work next week. I'm going to miss you.
I'm going to put you in my, go in your suitcase.
I think since we've been married, we've only had one night where we didn't sleep in the same bed.
Yeah.
And it was because I had to go take care of my mommy and she hurt herself and I didn't want to leave her side.
Yeah.
So I didn't come home. I stayed at her house.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be gone for like 3 nights.
3 days, 2 nights.
It feels long. We're still newlyweds. So next week we will not be on, but the week following we will be.
Yes.
What do you want to do that week? What should we give people a little spoiler alert towards?
Well, we talked about it last episode where we have plans to discuss
what the heck has been happening that we don't talk about on our podcast.
Yeah. Oh, I moved the computer. There we go. Sorry. Hi.
See, I'm going to acknowledge it and wave.
There we go.
Listeners. Hi. I think my boobs look good.
Your boobs do look good.
I have a different.
I stare at them all for dinner.
Oh my God.
If I had boobs, would you stare at mine?
Yes.
See?
I stare at all the parts of you.
I stare at all the parts of you too.
That's what happens when you marry the love of your life.
Mm-hmm. I'm saying.
So, okay. But anyway.
Episode. Yeah, we have a couple. We have a really large topic to discuss. I actually don't even really know where to start with it. It's involves domestic abuse, legal system,
straight washing,
all sorts of really real things that have been happening.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a moment here to like frame it in my head.
Okay.
And so I think part of what being your wife and being your partner, there's been a 4-year period that you've been divorced for a long time, but it has not ended. And it's been in a legal battle for years.
Yeah.
And the person that you have been divorced from for a while, but are still battling legally, has been using the legal system to continue abuse.
Yeah. I left the house and he pretended I didn't exist.
And it has been one ridiculous, just absolutely absurd level of just circling a drain basically for years.
Yeah. And because the legal system, acknowledges all people, they have to entertain it to a certain degree, which is exhausting.
I understand why. I'm okay with why.
I am too.
But I'm going to say it is rapidly coming to an end. And that end is in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And we are hopeful that it's coming to an end. There is a stop to it. Our court system, which I did not know, does have a stop to it. That like once certain decisions are made, you can't keep just fighting and fighting and fighting. Like they actually are like, we're not going to listen to you anymore. Like this is what it is.
Yeah.
And we are rapidly approaching that.
Yeah.
And so what has been, when you were talking earlier about narcissistic abuse specifically, that if you have not witnessed it, thank God. But it is, I've been witnessing it.
Yeah.
And by extent, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
But by extension, you start experiencing it.
Yeah.
Not in the same way, but in a different way. And I just have to say, I was so ill prepared to understand like what it actually is and how it is absolutely disorienting.
Yeah.
That's the best word I have for it. It is incredibly disorienting.
Yeah. The person doing the abuse, we'll go into more detail, but they live in their head in a bomb shelter. And they pull you, the black and white thinking, my way or the highway. They are just operating from intense insecurity, extreme fear, paranoia, and it is debilitating and destabilizing. And they do it. And I'm trying to understand if it's deliberate, they're just on autopilot based off of the abuse they got from their parents and no one stepped in. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I think probably the most well-known narcissist any of us have ever seen is Donald Trump.
Yeah. When he believes his own bullshit.
When he he believes it.
Yeah.
He really does believe that he is still rightfully president.
That's what's terrifying.
That's what's so terrifying.
Yeah. They totally believe it.
They believe these crazy things.
Yeah.
And they're so insistent upon it. At some point, you start to think, am I crazy? Right. And then you spend a lot of time circling in your head over details. And do I have this right? And could I just be seeing this completely wrong? Which is actually how I know you and I are not narcissists.
Oh yeah. If you're asking yourself, right. Well, and speaking of labels, it's like, even narcissism, like it's a group of, because I've asked myself, I'm like, maybe this person's a narcissist, maybe they're not, but I just know the patterns of behaviors, the tactics, the gaslighting, the control, the destabilizing, the dehumanizing, the complete lack of empathy, that check.
Well, and I'm going to go to Donald Trump for a minute too.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember, this is going years and years and years ago before he was president, but Rosie O'Donnell very famously made fun of him and exposed him in a way on The View.
Yeah.
That they say that is like the one thing you never do to a narcissist.
Oh man, they fucking throw a fit.
You never expose them, especially in a public way.
Yeah.
You never, if you leave them, if you reject them in some way, like it is like a duck and cover.
Yeah.
And so she wrote a book at one point, and I read her book, and she talks about it.
Oh.
And she says, because the abuse that she had to take from him, and all she said was something factual. Like, Donald Trump basically had been bankrupt like how many times?
Right.
Like, that's what she said. And he erupted on her in a way where she was, every time he had a chance to talk about her and like the things that he would say about her.
Yeah.
I mean, horrific things that he did. And that was the first time I remember being like, oh my God. And, now he's about to run for president again, even though the FBI were like, hey, let's like set up some real estate here in Mar-a-Lago and start digging through us. And what do you think was in that safe? I think it's got ties to Jeffrey Epstein, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I think there's a whole bunch of shit in there, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some stuff about Jeffrey Epstein in there.
Oh,
because they were thick as thieves, sleeping with underage girls in the Bahamas that were sex trafficked.
Oh, God.
There that is. Okay. But we're not a political podcast.
No.
God.
Speaking of political, gayness is not political. Anyway. God, fucking shit.
No, gayness is just who you are and who you love and how you identify.
Mm-hmm. But emotionally abusive people will tell you that it's political. Okay.
Let's just end on that note.
I'm sorry. Not sorry. Never apologize for being honest.
Well, that's just truth.
Right.
Yeah. Somebody's identity is not, it's not up for political debate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coming soon.
If I wear a rainbow t-shirt, gay. Take it off, still gay.
I was going to say, if we were measuring our gayness by the level of rainbows we wear, I don't wear rainbows, still gay.
Right.
I don't wear pins. I don't fly a flag off of our house.
Yeah. We have our t-shirts for the gym sometimes, but
sometimes, but like you would see me walking around being like, I don't think that girl's gay. Still gay. Can't really take it away from me, no matter how much you try to control what I wear and what I carry. Oh my God. Okay. Should we do another episode brought to you by the letter F? Fuck. Hey, people count that shit.
They do. And they send us letters about it.
Okay, Alex. Okay. Tell people all the things. We'll be back soon.
Balls of Magic. Go check us out on Instagram and Facebook. Go also check out YouthSeen on Instagram and Facebook. You can email us at howtobequeerpodcast@gmail.com.
I think that's it, right?
I think that's it.
Okay, see you next time.
YouthSeen.org. howtobequeer.com. Wow. Okay, that was a horrible launch. We'll talk about that next time.
Okay, see you soon. Okay, bye.
Love you, bye.